Hi, I'm Jeff and welcome to Advanced Effects Part 2. If you haven't, I highly recommend you go back and watch Part 1 where I give a detailed overview of how the Blackout Effects engine works so that you can create virtually any effect you can think of with the right tweaks. Now, I last left you with this long, smooth chase just by changing a default effects trail to 1%. I'm going to show you now how you can change this entire effect simply by the selection order that is recorded into the effect. So let's go ahead and stop this effect. And now let's go back to our groups where we have our inside out group. Now, if you weren't here, if you double tap inside out group, you can see how this effect would play on the tube, which is different than our straight selection, which we had in the first effect. That is just going straight through the tube's pixels. So we're going to grab our inside out group. We're going to record this into effect 2. Now, I'm actually going to pull out the effects tab. And if I had parameters that I really wanted to keep, I can simply go to presets, save current as a preset, effect 1. And now I can apply all of the parameters and adjustments and the steps to a new selection in a new effect. So I can go to effect 2. I can load in this preset, and now you will see that, hey, it has changed my trail to 1%. And if I had more steps and colors, they would all load in. So that is a quick way to apply an existing effect the way you like it to a new selection. So let's go ahead and just play this, and you can see we have an entirely new effect because it's starting from the inside of the tube out. Now let's have some fun and let's adjust some more things. Maybe we want this percentage to be 15%, and maybe we want this to be a little bit choppier. And maybe we're going to add some grouping into this. So if we did a grouping of 4, which is evenly divisible by our fixture selection of 16 pixels, we can get a nice symmetrical effect. So let's see what this looks like. If we press play, we can see that we have this inside out effect selection applying in 4 different spots in the tube, evenly distributed. And it's kind of a nice symmetrical effect, almost like a marquee effect. Now, because I'm only adjusting the level in these steps from 100 to background, every other parameter is adjustable on the fly. What do I mean by this? If you go back to your channel view, you can actually grab your channel 1, go into fixture controls, change the color temperature on the fly, or maybe we'll crossfade this into some kind of color, and you can adjust this on the fly because it's using its background values, and the effect is only adjusting the intensity parameters of the selection. Also, it is taking into account that background value. So it's going from background value to 100%. So if I wanted this tube not to go from 0 in these dark spots, but just to 100, I can actually adjust this on the fly as well and put the intensity up. So if I put the intensity to like around 50%, you can see the tube is always on, and you'll see it a little bit better in capture. Let's go down a little bit. You can see how the tube is not off anymore. It's at 10% and it goes up to those 100 values still. Okay, let's stop this effect. Let's home our lights, color, and intensity. And now let's create a fluorescent flicker. When I think of a fluorescent flicker effect, I think of the whole tube acting as one unit. So we can either do a grouping of 1 in the effect or create a selection with the whole tube, which we can do just by selecting channel 1, the head channel, and recording that into a new effect. I also think of fluorescent flickers as quick pops. So with a timing in the steps of 0, because it's going to quick pop up and quick pop down, and just a little dwell at the high points, maybe a longer dwell at the low points. And usually fluorescent flickers go from 0 to 100%, or maybe whatever you deem is correct in camera. So maybe we'll put the high point as a background value and the low point as 0. So let's go ahead and select channel 1, record this into a new effect. We're gonna call this flow flicker. Select it, pull out the effects tab. And now again, we're gonna have a timing of 0 because we want these to be quick pops. We're gonna have a dwell at the high point. So if we go -1, we can get a background value in there. And we can do this to 0.1. And then the low point we're gonna have as 0, and we'll have a longer dwell. So maybe 0.3 here. Fluorescent flickers are random, right? So we're gonna do a random rate, and maybe we want this to go somewhere around here to somewhere faster. So let's see what this looks like. Now, if we press play, nothing happens because it's going from 0 to the background value, which is 0. So we have to go back to our selection, go to fixture controls, and bring up the intensity. So now you can see if I just go to maybe 50% here, I can adjust that high point on the fly. And this is kind of a cool flicker effect. Maybe this works for you, or maybe you want something with a little bit more steps into it. Let's go ahead and stop this effect. Let's pull this out and let's add another step. So maybe we want this one to dwell for a little bit less time, and maybe we want it to be some kind of midway point. So maybe we'll do like 35% here. Okay, and now let's go ahead and play this effect. That's kind of cool. You can kind of get a double flicker there that has two different intensities besides off. And obviously you can further randomize this by adding more steps, but this is a great start for a fluorescent flicker. When I think of a fire effect, I think of a lot of randomization, but with a little bit of timing because fire doesn't instantly go up. It has a little bit of flame time to that high point. It's gonna dwell there for a very short amount of time before it kind of goes back down, and fire has that baseline level. Obviously it's going to have a randomized timing and grouping. So let's go ahead and clear this. Let's actually home this fixture and out. We're going to go back to our groups, take our straight selection, record this into effect 4, which is going to be called fire, save this. And now let's go ahead and select it, pull out effects, and we're going to have a timing here of maybe 0.2 to the high point and maybe 0.3 to the low point. We'll do the dwell here of 0.1 again, and maybe 0.2 here for the background value. And we can set that background value in the channel view. We're going to do a randomized group, a randomized rate, maybe something a little slower and more contained. And let's just see what this looks like. So before I do this, I'm going to take my selection, put it at a baseline of maybe 20%. And now let's go ahead and play this fire effect. So there you go. That is kind of a good beginning to a fire effect. Maybe you want it to be smoother, or maybe you want more steps like we did with the fluorescent flicker, which we could add into that. Or maybe we want to add some color now. Maybe it's not just 3200, right? We could, if we just wanted it one color, we could go ahead and select our head channel, go to fixtures, and change the color temperature to maybe 1800. Or maybe we wanted to crossfade this into kind of more of a reddish orangey color like so. But maybe we wanted two different colors, or maybe multiple different colors within our fire effect. We can do that easily two different ways. One is that we could create a favorite for each color that we like of the two, or we can just load in a color directly into the effects engine step. So let's go ahead and go back to effects. Let's stop this. Let's pull out effects. And I'm going to show you now how you can load in a color directly into that effect step. So we can click this light setting box, uncheck use background color. And now we can pick something maybe a little bit more red for this step. And background, maybe we want background to still be able to have our kind of like orangey color. So now if we press play, we're gonna get two different colors going, our background color and our red color in our effect step. So now if we take our effect selection, and just to further dramatize this, and I put this to say blue, you can see now we have the beginnings of a cop car effect, a different kind of fire effect. So obviously use this to your advantage here by being able to adjust the colors of the background for the second color on the fly. Maybe let's create a little bit more of a randomization. So let's add another couple steps here, and maybe we will have these be some midway points. So maybe we'll do this one to 65%, maybe this one will be 85%, and let's have these also be different colors as well. Maybe this one will be a little bit more yellowy orange, maybe this one will be kind of deeper orange, and then we have our background color as well. And now let's just kind of adjust some of these timings to be something maybe a little different here, and maybe the dwell will be longer on this one. Okay, let's try this. Okay, so now we're getting even more of a randomized colored fire effect. Maybe this is too extreme, but you can understand that this is a great starting spot for your fire effect. Okay, let's stop this effect and let's do a cop car. So when I think of a cop car effect, I think of half of the tube going and the other half of the tube going, kind of the new style of cop car where they do multiple flashes. So maybe it's like 3 flashes red, 3 flashes blue, and they kind of alternate. Cop cars are usually not randomized. They have a sequential pattern that they stick to. So let's go ahead and try something. So if I clear this, I'm going to create a new selection of half the tube with the other half of the tube. So if I go back to my straight selection and I do offset number of groups 2, and if I go back to offset, you can see how that is divided. Now, if I record this into a new group, 3, and we're going to call this 2 groups, we're going to see if we double tap here, this is how our effect is going to play, which is exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm going to take my 2 groups, record this into a new effect, call this cop car, pull out the effects engine, let's go to cop car. So usually the light intensity stays the same unless you have to adjust it for camera for each color. So let's go ahead and put these levels right now to like 50%. And let's change this light setting so that we have a red color here, save, and a blue color here. And I'm thinking it has no time up and down. It just changes, right? And let's just see what a 2-step effect would give us in this situation. I think we're gonna have to do this faster, but let's just see if we did play right now. So yeah, obviously faster. So let's stop this. Let's do this to like 0.5, now press play. Okay, that's the beginnings of a simple cop car effect. Now let's add something a little bit more fun into the mix. Okay, so we're going to basically clone these steps by just tapping the plus icon a bunch of times. And if I put this one to that red, and I save this, then when I clone this, I can clone a couple of these steps. So it's going to go red, and then it has to either go off or it has to go to black color in order to show the difference between the strobes of red and the strobes of blue, right? So I'm just gonna do that with intensity. So if we do on, off, on, we need another off section right here. And then we're gonna go on blue, off blue, on blue, off blue. So 1, 2, this is 3. We need one more off before it starts again on. So we can see how this works. Let's just go ahead and try this. Let's just press play. Okay, obviously this is too slow, right? So let's stop this. Let's put the total time to like 1, and let's see what happens here. Press play. Hey, that's kind of a cool cop car effect. And you can see really how it's working on the table in this AKS or on the side of me. Again, look at what your light is lighting, because to me, this looks like a cop car effect. But maybe on the tube, it looks a little bit funky or a little bit weird to you. That really doesn't matter. It's about what your light is lighting. So that's kind of a cool, quick way to get a nice cop car effect going in blackout. Okay, let's do another effect, maybe lightning. Lightning has another quick flash like a fluorescent flicker, but it has some timing as it fades down, right? And it's gonna act as one unit, but maybe it has like a double flash, right? So we'll take our head channel, we'll record this into a new effect. We're gonna call this lightning. We're going to pull out effects. We're going to make sure that lightning is selected. Again, it's gonna have no time up to this high point, 100%. It's gonna dwell there for maybe 0.1 second. And then it's going to go to the background value, which we could set as a low point, which is probably gonna be off. But it's gonna have a little bit of timing, so maybe 0.5 4. Let's try that and see how long that goes. And then let's just put a dwell of like 0.5 here. And this is going to be randomized, obviously. So we want a random rate here from maybe like a little slower to a little faster. And let's just see what this looks like. So if we press play, well, the first thing that needs to happen is the color temperature needs to change. So let's go back into channel view. Let's go to fixture controls and put this color temperature. There we go. Okay, so this could be kind of the start of a lightning effect. And you can see it pops up and then it has a little bit of timing down. But maybe we want a little bit more out of this and the double flicker like we were talking about. So let's stop this. Let's pull out effects. Let's add another step here, or 2 maybe. So it's gonna go off and it's gonna be really quick. So it's gonna have almost no timing to this. And then it's gonna go back on at 100. And this is also gonna have no timing and dwell there for, a minimal amount of time. Okay, let's just see what this looks like. So if we press play, that's kind of a cool lightning effect. Now, if I wanted to manually trigger this, I could set the duration to a number of cycles, and then I could trigger it with the play button. So let's stop this. Let's change the duration from infinite to number of cycles. We'll do 1. And now if I press play, and I can press play again once it's done, and keep pressing play, I can manually trigger this. Now, one thing to note is that you can trigger it immediately after it finishes the effect all the way through. So this last dwell time I have is 0.5, but if I put this dwell time to 0, now you're gonna see it's going to go from play to stopping itself quicker at the last step. So watch, we're gonna press play, it's gonna do its thing, and then it's going off. So I can trigger it faster this way. So that's something to think of when you're doing manual triggering effects with a duration of number of cycles. Okay, so now let's do something fun like a generic rainbow chase effect. So it's going to be at the same intensity throughout the whole tube, but it's going to utilize the whole pixels to kind of do a chase. So we'll use the straight group again, and then we can simply pick our colors in each effect. Or if we wanted to, again, we can take our selection, we can go into something that we like. So like say this is the red that we like. We can record this as a favorite. We'll call this color red. We're gonna do a global favorite. Save this, and then we can load this favorite into our effect step. So first we're gonna take our group, we're gonna grab the straight group, we're gonna record our new effect. We're gonna call this rainbow. Save this. We're going to pull out the effects tab, go to our rainbow, and now if we click the light setting button, we can select from favorites and tap red. So there you go. Red has now been loaded into this effect step. We tap save, and now you can see red has been loaded into our effect step. So now if you had specific colors that you wanted that you had from your favorites, you could load them into your effects. But we're just gonna make the rest right now. Again, we're gonna keep this at 100 and do this into orange. Click save. And now if I press the plus icon, it is going to duplicate the last step. So this is kind of an easy way to keep the color scheme going with all the parameters that you want right here. So we're gonna create 7 of these steps, right? So red, orange, this is gonna be yellow. Then we're gonna do green. Then we're gonna do blue. Maybe this kind of blue. And then indigo. And then violet. Okay, save this. And now obviously the total time is 14 seconds. It's gonna take forever to go across the whole tube. So let's go ahead and put this to like 3 seconds. And let's just play this and see what happens. Maybe it could be a little faster, but there you go. There's a generic rainbow chase. Here, we'll do a faster one. Do 1 second. Press play. And now you have a generic rainbow chase across this Astera Titan 2. So those are some basic effects that you can get up and running in no time just by tweaking a couple parameters and changing your selection as you record them into your effects. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in part 3.